In this video, we will be continuing to explore the marketing mix. We have looked in other videos at many aspects of the first of the 4 Ps, the product, but now we will begin to examine everything involved in the next of the 4 Ps, the price. We will introduce some of the different approaches that a business owner can take when it comes to pricing their products and services. Once we have explored each of these pricing strategies, we will look at how they apply to the video's main example. This video will just be a brief look at the pricing strategies which can be used, and we will explore in more detail each of the strategies in their own videos. We're all consumers ourselves, so we've all made decisions about whether to buy something based on its price. You might be one of those people who has to get their hands on the latest gadget, no matter what the price is. One of the first to buy a PS5 console or the latest Apple iPhone. Or you might prefer to wait until the price is reduced and the product is more affordable. You might even be a customer who likes to shop around for clothes or food products, looking for those amazing bargains. Pricing is a key part of the marketing mix. Getting the price right is really important for the success of a business. If it's too high, people won't want to buy from you. If it's too low, there's a risk that your business might make a loss or be perceived as lower quality. With the marketing mix, it's all about getting each element right and developing that perfect mix. Imagine you are baking a cake. If you were to put in too much or even too little of a particular ingredient, you are likely going to end up with a pretty disastrous cake. And the same is true of the marketing mix. If a business doesn't get the price right, it's unlikely to matter how well they have done with the other 3 Ps, product, place, and promotion. Let's have a look at some of the main pricing strategies that a business can use. The first we will consider is cost plus pricing. This is a very traditional method that many businesses use to set their prices. As you might have guessed, the business works out the costs of producing a product or service, and then adds on a percentage or a set fee, known as the markup, to set its prices. It's relatively straightforward and can be a quick way of setting prices without too much confusion. So it might cost a baker £1 to make a cake. If he wants to make 50 pence on each cake he sells, he will set his price at £1.50. £1 costs plus the 50 pence markup. As well as being straightforward, the other advantage of using cost plus pricing is that you know you will always make a profit if you sell all of your product. But be careful, if you don't sell all of your cakes, you might not make the profit that you expected. Cost plus pricing also doesn't look at what competitors are doing with their prices. So another baker nearby may actually be selling a similar cake for £2. This means you could have charged more than £1.50, making a higher sales revenue. Another disadvantage of cost plus pricing you will need to watch out for is that it doesn't take the customer's needs or wants into account. So a customer might not be prepared to pay £1.50 for a cake, or they may be happy to pay much more, especially if they think the cake is going to be really high quality and really delicious. Failing to take customers' needs and wants into account could lead to missed opportunities when it comes to those important pricing decisions. Just some examples of businesses that might use cost plus pricing include restaurants, bakers, mechanics, and corner shops. The next strategy we will consider is competitor-based pricing. This pricing strategy is when a business bases its selling prices on what its competitors are doing. This strategy is often used when a business has a lot of rivals and there's a going rate for a product or service. There may be little or no difference between the price you charge and the price your competitors charge, so customers might expect to pay the same wherever they go. A good example here is petrol. Although there may be small differences between the cost at each petrol station, they are minimal differences and prices are usually pretty standard across the board. It's important to remember that businesses should always try and find a way to differentiate their product or service from their rivals. Price can be used to achieve this, but you can also gain a competitive advantage by giving better service, or by making sure you always have good availability at all times. This becomes even more important if you are using a competitor-based pricing strategy. It is of course really important to know what your competitors are doing when it comes to pricing, but it's not by any means the only thing to think about. This leads us nicely to our next pricing strategy, customer-based pricing. As you might have guessed, this strategy focuses on customer behaviour and what the business thinks the customer will be prepared to pay. There are a few different types of customer-based pricing. Penetration pricing is when the business sets its prices low to start with. For example, a special offer. Examples of this include special offers for new customers signing up for TV and film streaming services such as Disney Plus or Netflix, or people signing up for a low-cost trial of Amazon Prime. The idea is that people will try the product or service at a lower price, and then continue to buy it when the prices increase later on. However, there's always the risk that people will only want to pay the reduced price and stop buying when it eventually increases. Another twist on this is economy pricing. Supermarkets use this a lot with their own brand products, keeping selling prices low to attract a big market share. However, they also keep their costs of production, packaging and marketing to a minimum, so they make a profit, however small, on each unit sold. Examples here would be Tesco or Asda Value range. Next up is price skimming. As I said at the beginning of this video, we all know someone who has to be the first to own every new gadget, whatever the price. It might even be you. The idea behind price skimming is that there will be enough people willing to pay a higher initial price for something new and exclusive, such as a PS5 console, especially when supply is pretty limited. The manufacturers will make super profits on the early sales at a higher price, and then they will reduce the price later on to appeal to a wider audience. There are many examples of this which we will explore in another video. To all the teachers out there, show all of these videos without any ads and gain access to our growing library of over 500 teaching worksheets. Why not visit BizzWizard.co.uk to find out more? Sometimes mind tricks come into play. So we've all seen prices ending in 99 pence instead of rounding to whole pounds. But this can make a big difference when it comes to higher prices. At a glance, £9,999 does look less than £10,000 when displayed on a car windscreen in a showroom. This is called psychological pricing. However, many customers, especially those who've studied business studies, know that this is a bit of a trick and it can have mixed effectiveness on the customer. Some luxury brands use what we call premium pricing, setting their prices high to help customers feel that they are getting a better quality of product. This is really common with designer brands. The beer brand Stella Artois even used the slogan "reassuringly expensive" in its advertising campaigns to try and convince customers that it was worth paying a little bit extra for their beer compared to their rivals. Finally, some businesses use loss leaders, pricing a product below its cost so you make a loss on it. However, the idea here is that customers will be drawn in by the special offer, but will end up buying other, more profitable products. As with almost all of these strategies, we will explore the use of loss leader pricing in detail in another video. Bring this video and over 100 more to life with fun, interactive games, quizzes and case studies. Why not try the first 25 completely free by visiting BizzWizard.co.uk. So now that we have taken a brief look at each of the pricing strategies, let's apply some of what we have just learned to this video's main example. This is Ben Hamden, and he is a highly skilled barber who is looking to set up a barbershop in central London. Before he can do so, he will need to work on his marketing mix, specifically deciding how to price his services. Central London is an expensive place to do business. Ben has to factor in the rent costs of his premises, the costs of London wages, along with all the other costs to run his barbershop on a day-to-day basis. So you might advise Ben that a cost-plus approach would ensure that he should always make a profit. However, this approach doesn't consider what Ben's competitors are charging for their services. It also doesn't take into account what his potential customers will be prepared to pay. Ben might decide to do a survey of the prices charged by his competitors and use this as a way of setting his prices. Competitor-based pricing? Sounds like a good plan, doesn't it? But just because his competitors are charging these prices doesn't make it the best price. His costs might be different from his competitors, and the profits he hopes to make may also be very different. His competitors may not be picking up as much business as they could, because their prices are seen as too high by customers. Or, on the flip side of the coin, they may be undercharging and making less profit than they actually could. This approach also only really works if there isn't much to distinguish between the services offered by Ben and those of his competitors. Instead, if he can offer a better service or a different experience to that offered by his competitors, he might be able to charge more, as there will be something that makes him stand out compared to the other barbershops in the area. You might advise Ben to look at ways of pricing that take into account the way customers behave and what they are likely to pay for his services. He could run some kind of introductory offer to entice new customers, maybe half price for the first couple of months after opening. After this, he can put his prices up, in the hope that people who have tried his barbershop because of the initial cheap price will stay with him due to the quality of his service. This would be an example of penetration pricing. Here, Ben is trying to increase market share by pricing his services cheaply to start with and then putting them up in the future. The disadvantage of this is that once Ben puts his prices up, he may end up losing a lot of market share. He may also make a loss during the special offer period, and these losses will need to be given careful consideration. Each of the video courses over at BizzWizard.co.uk also includes an interactive business case study that applies the knowledge learned to a real-world scenario. There are over 1,000 multiple-choice questions, each with detailed feedback, which tests students' understanding of the content. Why not visit BizzWizard.co.uk to find out more? As Ben's barbershop is in central London, depending on location, he may be near a number of designer clothes shops, luxury restaurants, and other high-end services. He might decide to try and attract some of these high-end customers to come to his barbershop by having a luxury, high-quality service that has features that set him apart from his competitors. Maybe giving a scalp massage with every haircut, or offering his customers a posh coffee while they wait. And he would then, of course, charge prices to match the quality of this service. If Ben decides to do this, it would be an example of premium pricing. Charging more than the going rate for his service might add to the perception that it's somehow better than his competitors. It could be a way for Ben to make sure he makes a decent profit on each haircut. But remember, not all customers are prepared to pay over the odds for a haircut though, so Ben will need to make sure he understands the target customers he wants to attract before he sets his prices. On the other hand, Ben may decide to compete purely on price. If he's near a busy area with lots of people passing through and can keep his costs low, he may be able to undercut his rivals. This could be an example of economy pricing, keeping costs as low as possible, making only a small profit on each service, but dealing with a high volume of customers every day. Depending on which part of London Ben's shop ends up being located, this strategy could work. Although the risk is that if he doesn't get the sheer volume of customers he expects through the door, and can't get the haircuts done quickly enough, he might end up working ridiculously hard and still losing money. As we have seen, there are many strategies that Ben could consider before setting the prices for his barbershop enterprise. We can give him all the advice in the world, but only he actually knows which strategy will work best with the other elements of his marketing mix. In reality, any business will need to look at the following 3 factors when setting prices: costs, competitors, and consumers. We'll look at how each of these factors impacts the many pricing strategies over the next few videos in an effort to improve our chances of achieving that perfect marketing mix. This has been the BizzWizard. See you in the next